second half were absolutely taking the game to Southampton, and
they were.
Forster was clearly standing on his head and made some outstanding saves. There was like 3 shots in one nanosecond where he made one save and there's another blocked off the line, and then Terry just skied it. And the look on his face was just a pure joy for anyone who hates Terry. But anyway, I digress. Going back to your other point, Ken, on how we have rebounded when we've got battered, and the games that we can highlight this season are Liverpool at home. And I think that was right before the international break, so you really can't count that, because then you've had a lot of time to get the brush off the cobwebs and get ready for the next game. Unfortunately, that was that Sunderland game. We drew 2-2, and I believe we actually didn't do anything for the next 4 matches after that one. And then you had the City game there. We did come back midweek. That's when we battered Asteras 5-1 with the infamous Rabona.
Right.
And our next game after that, we lost at home to Newcastle. And then the other game of note where we were trounced was the Chelsea away game. Lost 3-0. Next game was that Palace game at home, which arguably we could have lost that. So I don't know. We'll see how we fare in a week's time, and how Poch can G up the troops, so to speak. I wasn't. And again, I'm not bashing Poch, and I know he's probably very coy with his post-match comments, but he really didn't add anything in there that would explain. He just kept pointing to a poor performance, and we just didn't play our game. And no shit Sherlock. I think we all saw that.
Yeah.
But I'd really like to know what he was really thinking, because again, he just rolled out the cliches, and he was accountable for it. We just didn't follow the tactics. But
we're gonna find out how big this team's bollocks are next week.
Can I ask you both a quick question? You can only answer yes or no. There's no further discussion. Do you think we make? And Ken, you first. Do you think we make? Do you think we make Europa League?
That's only fifth.
No,
this year,
just
right?
Just from this point on, seeing Saturday.
Is it fifth and sixth?
It's 6. It goes to
possibly
6,
7.
Possibly 7, depending
probably
on
7th, actually.
Outcome of the FA Cup, because looks like it's gearing up towards an Arsenal-Liverpool final. And
listen,
which would mean that none of those, if this thing runs its course, then none of those spots are taken, and 7th goes to Europa, right?
Yeah. My answer is yes, because last week I said we'll finish 5th, and I'm going to stand by that. Yes.
All right. Chairman?
I think we'll end up 6. Did I say that last week?
Yeah.
I think I did. I'm sticking with 6.
Beating it out of you. Okay. I say we don't make it. And I'm okay with it.
So what? 8?
Schlep rock.
Yeah. No, I think this team's.
Well, that means Stoke or Swansea's going to leapfrog us. Is that what you're saying, Sam?
I think 4th it'll be Man City. It'll be Man City, Chelsea, Man City. Arsenal.
It could be the Woolwich, the way they're playing and storming up the table, and City are faltering. 3 wins in the last 11.
They're just I watched that.
All competitions. They're out of the Champions League this week unless they can perform a miracle at the new camp.
They'll make it close. I bet you they'll make it close.
Yeah, but if they're done there, and you could arguably concede the Premiership after the results this weekend, granted it wasn't probably the best result for Chelsea, that's probably the end for Pellegrini. City have that same mentality as Abramovich, and I've given you a fair crack, and you didn't produce the goods this season, even though he won 2 trophies last year. He's not produced the goods, and he'll be out in his ear. Let's switch gears. I know this wasn't on the agenda, but I saw this online, and we have one very astute person. Is it Gaffney, who lives in...
David Gaffney,
Yeah, he lives in Spain, and he's always commenting on Villarreal, or is it Valencia?
I think it's Valencia.
Yeah, so... there's a lot of noise coming out of Spain, and the usual every couple of years bullshit that goes on with Madrid, and he's talking about the very pro-Madrid sporting newspaper, Marca. And I think he made a comment today that there wasn't until the 14th page of that paper there was any conversation about anything else going on in Spanish football. So we know that and we've all heard this when it's come to the Bale noise a couple of seasons ago, and we tried desperately not to listen to any of that stuff until it became reality. But Marca does almost it's like a mafia paper for Madrid, and so now piggybacking what he said about City, is Capello going to come back and manage City? I know people have made that noise, and then there's noise about Simeone coming and doing that. But the bigger news is, is Ronnie unhappy now? Is Bale unhappy?
Did you see the Vine? Did you see it?
I did not.
So, and it's disgusting. Cristiano Ronaldo is such a prick. I'm sorry. Gareth Bale. So he tries an overhead kick, and I think it hits the post or something, hits the crossbar, and it eventually comes out. And Bale takes on the volley and scores, and it's Ronaldo's reaction. He's pissed off. He's mad that his attempt at goal didn't go in, and that Bale got the rebound and it went in. It's unbelievable. And he just holds his hand up in the air like as if he's in disgust. And I guess there was an article yesterday that was slagging off Bale for being lazy and a loner. Come back.
But yeah, all that's driven by Marca.
Yeah, terrible.
Madrid came out and made the token. No, he's a great player. We love him. Blah blah blah. But Marca's running that club. You just know they are, and public opinion is swayed by them. It'd be like if the Sun was running Chelsea. Everything that the Sun would say it would be taken ad infinitum by everyone that followed Chelsea, and that's the kind of sway that Marca has on the fans. So guess what they do when they go to the stadium? They don't think that Bale is putting in 100%. They get on his back, and I think it's disgusting. But anyway,
so he scored today, and he put his hands over his ears, saying, basically symbolizing.
Yeah,
that I don't hear any of your bullshit. It's terrible. I don't understand why that club is such a dream club when the supporters are they're disgusting. They're just absolutely disgusting.
So the question is, because we've heard it for several weeks now, that Bale may come back. Now I'm hearing Ronaldo would come back, and United would want them both. United couldn't afford both of them. Because what did Ronnie go for, 80, and then Bale went for 86 million pounds?
Yeah, and they wasted how much on Falcao? How much did they waste on him? 60, was it? Something obscene.
Well, that's on loan. He's on loan.
Oh, he was on loan.
Yeah.
Di Maria was. That's right. Yeah, so they spent $300 million on players, didn't they, or $200 million or some extraordinary number?
$250 million US dollars. Yeah.
They are at the wrong end of the net spend table.
So they're not going to be able to afford. They'd have to raise.
I just don't think they can afford to bring both of them back. Because granted, the value of Ronaldo at his age is certainly not going to be anything like what they paid for him, and I think they've got to be a realist on that. Unless they want to hold him there until the end of his career, and he's 32, 33, and they let him go on a free transfer, which I don't see that happening either. But Bale obviously has a lot of his career ahead of him. I mean, was he 25 now, right?
Yes, 25.
So, but I just can't see him coming back to Spurs. We are not going to stump up. Levy he's a very wise businessman and made a very good deal in selling Bale, but he's not an idiot, and he's not going to be paying 70 million quid to get him back. That is not the Tottenham way of doing things, and Levy will not do that. And he's not going to come back cheaper than that.
What's the maximum, and what player can you toss in? I'd hate to see if you gave them 45 and Eriksen, does that get Bale back, and is it worth it?
Well, it'd probably be worth it. I don't think that would even be an option for Madrid.
I just don't see us spending any money. We have a stadium to build, people. There is no way we're going to spend 40, 50, 60 million quid on players. We're not.
No, I actually disagree with you, because the stadium finances itself. That'll be done by some CMBS deal, or it'll be done by straight bank financing. I mean, ENIC has really no debt for all intents and purposes.
And Joe Lewis still can bankroll.
And that's a viable, commercially financeable project. I mean, the equity they'll be put into paying for the stadium will be de minimis. Banks will whore themselves out to finance that deal. Trust me on that one.
But isn't that what killed Arsenal for a bunch of years? Not
well,
killed them, but it hamstrung them.
But the ownership structure is different there. I mean, they've got, Ivan Gazidis is obviously worth a ton of money, and so is Stan Kroenke. But,
and he wasn't involved that much when they were building the stadium.
That's true. He actually
majority shareholding has been in the last few years.
That's a great point. But none of those guys really wanted to stump up 50, 60 million. If you really look at, and you guys know I love to talk about this, but in terms of pure net equity that ENIC has put in, and I say ENIC, I mean Lewis, over the 14 years they've owned the club, it's shockingly low. I'd actually think it's somewhere around the £70 million mark, which over a 14-year period of time is extraordinary.
Yeah.
And that you're talking about a guy that, look, he lost a ton of money. He owned a bunch of Bear Stearns stocks. So in 2008, he lost about $1 billion. But he's done very well since then. He's probably back close to where he was. And if he had to write a $100 million check, it wouldn't be a terribly hard thing for him to do. So, but he hasn't had to do that. That's been the genius of Levy running the club. So,
well, of course, the other factor on the United side is, I think we all know that Madrid are not probably in the best shape with their goalkeeping department with Iker Casillas, especially after the Schalke debacle during the week. De Gea is out there, and obviously his stock has risen since his first shaky season in England.
Yeah.
Although I'm just reading that the BBC gossip says Madrid will not bid for De Gea, and followed that is Spurs face competition for Lavezzi. But anyway,
I hope we don't get him.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
He was talking retirement earlier this year. Why would you want to get somebody whose heart is really not into this?
And it's not in our model to spend a bunch of money on a 29-year-old player.
No. So I think it's safe to say that, there's a lot of noise coming out of Madrid, but I don't think in any way, shape or form we should get our hopes up on Bale coming back to us. But I do think we need to be very upset if he goes to a Premier League rival and he's tearing us up every time he plays us. That would be the ultimate disappointment.
It'd have to be a team.
But where else would he go?
Well, it'd have to be a team that where he could build his global brand, because that's really what he's about now. I mean, I think with all this hysteria at Madrid, I actually think he's the future of that club, ironically. It shows you how pathetic the game really is. This is a guy, right, that basically won him the Champions League, won him the Copa del Rey. I mean, he scored so many huge goals last year.
It was a dream first season.
It was unbelievable. And so here he is. He hasn't scored in 8 games, and they want to run him out of there? It's pathetic.
So
could you see maybe someone like Liverpool trying to go in for him, being that they're not that far away from Wales?
Well, I mean, look, I think
it's not a homecoming, but
it's a club that he would consider. I think in England it would be Man U, it'd be Liverpool. He'd never go to Arsenal. Those are the only 2 clubs in the. He's not going to go to Chelsea.
Chelsea's in the.
I don't know. I just think he's a good lad, and frankly I don't think he leaves Madrid. I mean, unless they sell him, and they'd be crazy to sell him.
I just don't see him not being in London.
Well, the other factor.
If he came back.
The other factor.
Well, that means you really think you could see him playing for Chelsea?
Don't, because I'll vomit. Don't.
Well, I'm going to throw this out here, guys. The other factor to consider is his contractual obligations with Adidas. And who wears? Well, Chelsea is still Adidas next season.
Look, he's not leaving anywhere. He's not.
Mind you, so's United. This is their last year with Nike.
I just don't think. Look, United. Look, he's worth. I mean, bare minimum, he's worth £85 million, and that's considered sort of a distressed sale for Gareth Bale right now. And I just don't think. Look, who can pay that? Well, Abramovich could. I don't know if there's any financial fair play restrictions on him to prevent him from. United simply can't, because they just don't have the money for it. They'd have to raise equity and dilute shareholders, and that's never going to happen.
I'm going to tell you all something right now, and you tell me if you're not feeling it. I feel more nauseous talking about Bale possibly ending up at another Premier League club than I do about this 3-0 loss today.
I think
it sickens me.
You're probably right with a ton of other Spurs fans out there, particularly those who've recently come on board, particularly when Bale was at the top of his game with us, and had to see him leave. And your team picks you, and you're stuck with the team. We can probably talk about Jim Capel's article in a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's Capel, by the way.
Capel.
Cable?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And